respect for humanity, respect for future generations, respect for the deepest values that we share as human beings. Those values are more important now than ever because of this new relationship between humanity and God's green earth. What has changed the relationship between humanity and the ecology of the earth? There are three things that have combined to radically transform this relationship. Number one, we are now more than 7 billion people. And when I was born, I am old, but not that old. And when I was born, there were just a little over 2 billion people. It took 200,000 years before the population of humanity reached 1 billion. And that is the number of additional people who have joined us on this earth in the first 14 years of this century. So the impact of 7 billion, which will soon be 9 billion, is naturally greater than the impact of 1 billion or 2 billion. So this is the first factor that has changed our relationship to the planet. We are actually seeing a success story with the slowing of population growth. So this is a matter for celebration, not for hand-wringing. We are seeing progress with the education of girls as well as boys, the respect for and empowerment of women to take part in the decisions, and most significantly, the reduction in child mortality, child death rates, because when children survive into adulthood, mothers and fathers begin to have fewer children. This is age-old wisdom that has been demonstrated everywhere in the world. And of course, women and their partners must also have the ability to make decisions about how many children and the spacing of children. But that is the first factor. The population has grown. The second factor is that we have new technologies that have given us sources of power and energy that were never available until 150 years ago, when the first oil was discovered and when coal began to be used in much greater abundance. But we didn't realize that in burning oil and coal, we would fill the atmosphere with pollution that traps heat. And these technologies that have spread throughout the world are very powerful. And 85% of all the energy they use comes from carbon-based fuels. And so we know we have to change that. We cannot use the atmosphere as an open sewer anymore. It will take time to change this, but we must begin changing it now. And that is part of the meaning of these events in Bucaramanga during these days. I said there were three factors: the population growth, the powerful new technologies that depend on carbon-based fuels. The third factor is the most difficult to describe, but it is the most important. It is our way of thinking we have respect for nature? Do we have respect for God's creation? Do we think about the future when we decide what actions to take in the present? There is in the world today a much greater interconnection of business and industry. It's almost as if we now live in Earth Incorporated. Companies have supply chains that go to hundreds of other countries. They market products, again, to hundreds of other countries. Jobs are moved across national borders. And now robots and advanced automation not only replace our muscle power, but also our thinking capacity. And so as a result, we have come, many of us, to think more about the short term, the near term, the immediate future, and less about the impact of our actions and plans on the next generation and the generation after them. But because we have so much power with these technologies, the impact we have on the future requires us to expand our thinking to encompass our love of those who are our children and grandchildren and even future generations, because they will take stock of the world we leave to them, and they will have feelings about us and what we did. But I will come back to that. As we look here in Bucaramanga at this global economy and at the importance of competing effectively in ways that respect our deepest values, it is already obvious that one of the most important strategies is to focus on education and innovation in business. Because one of the other changes in the world today is that we are all connected by smartphones and mobile phones and computers and the internet. And now with intelligent devices that are embedded in the architecture and the things that we buy and the cars and trucks and trains and planes. And so it is possible now for young people in Bucaramanga to get a good education and work together creatively to come up with innovations that will improve the quality of life here in Santander and will improve the quality of life in Colombia and South America and the world as a whole. But along with the growth in the economy has come a growth in waste products. And so recycling, it has become more important. And recycling also means paying attention to innovation in the design of materials and products before they are even made, so that they can be recycled more easily and make the complete circuit back to nature. This work is now underway in many places around the world. But there are always choices that have to be made. Choices that bring into play the values we feel are important. Let me use two examples. Number one, on the other side of the world, in Bangladesh, they are the ice is melting and raising the sea level, and they have tens of millions of people that live right at the sea level. There is a proposal there to open up a huge new coal mine in the area where some of the last tigers are protected. An area that provides drinking water for millions of people and irrigation water for 100,000 farmers. If the coal is burned, Bangladesh suffers. But some people will make money in the short term if the coal is produced. How should that be weighed against the long-term impact? This may seem like an easy choice for many of you. It does to me. But when people are poor and want more money, then these kinds of choices can seem more difficult than they truly are. Let me use a second example. And perhaps I am being a little bit impolite in raising a local example when I do not vote here. But what about the proposal to mine gold in San Bucaramanga?